What are keyframes and why are they so important? That is the question that I'm going to be answering in today's video. If you've seen any of my editing tutorials or any tutorials by any other video creators, you've probably heard the term keyframe pop up. But what is a keyframe? Simply put, a keyframe basically represents a specific value of a specific effect at a specific point in time. So as you can see, we've got this title in our project inside of Adobe Premiere Pro, and at the moment there are no keyframes created. But if we wanted to create an animation, then we would have to create 2 keyframes, and we would have to change the value of each keyframe to create an animation. Now at the moment, the position consists of 2 numbers, 960 and 540. 960 represents the x-axis, and 540 represents the y-axis. So changing these numbers changes the position of the text. So basically, if we create a brand new keyframe by pressing this icon here, this is a stopwatch or a toggle animation button. We're going to select that, and by doing so, we've just created a brand new keyframe. Now this is a keyframe. It's this small diamond that sits next to this specific effect. So as of right now, this keyframe currently corresponds to 960 by 540 on the position. And we know that it's corresponding to the position because it's on this line that matches up with the position. If we were to create a keyframe on the rotation, the keyframe would sit down here because it would be right next to rotation, as you can see. This is really awesome because it means when we create loads of keyframes across loads of different effects, all you have to do is follow the keyframe across and match it up to its specific effect, and you know those keyframes are corresponding with that effect. So you would never see a keyframe for your position down here. It only lives up here next to the position. So the way keyframes work is they lock in a specific code at that specific time. So this keyframe here is basically holding the information of 960 by 540. Now, if I move over a few seconds and I change the position, that is going to create a new keyframe. And the value of this keyframe is 1341 by 540. So essentially, we've now got 2 keyframes with 2 different sets of information. And because these are a few seconds apart, if we go back to the first keyframe and we play our video, the video is now going to move. That text is moving because the value of those keyframes is now moving. So as you can see, 960, we move over, and because the value has changed up to 1341, it's going to slowly transition from one keyframe to another, therefore creating an animation on our title. And the way keyframes work is if you want the effect to be slower or you want it to take longer to complete the effect, then you just increase the gap between those keyframes. So this starts at 0 seconds, this is roughly 14 seconds in, and this means it's going to take 14 seconds to go from 960, which is here, all the way to 1341, which is over here. Let me show you what I mean. There you go. Because there's a 14-second gap, it's going to take 14 seconds to get from point A to point B. But if I decrease that gap and I shrink that down, and now this second keyframe sits at 1 second, it's going to take 1 second to get from point A to point B. Now, the same thing applies to video effects. So let's go to tint. We'll drag tint onto our video. And as you can see, our text is white. So if we select map white to, and we create a brand new keyframe here, so we'll select the toggle animation, we'll move over a second, we'll select the white box and we'll select a random color. So we'll select this bright pink and press OK. It basically means that the value of the map white 2 has gone from white to pink. And because these are now keyframed, there is now an animation between white and pink. So it's taking a few seconds to go from white to pink. So essentially, a keyframe is just a point on your video which corresponds to a specific piece of information on a specific effect. Keyframes are the absolute backbone of animation, and you can't create any sort of animation without first creating a set of keyframes. So my advice to you is before you jump into any advanced editing tutorials, before you try any specific fancy effects, first get to grips with keyframes and how they work. And once you understand how these keyframes work and how you can create specific animations by using your keyframes, you can now move on to these advanced editing tutorials with that knowledge, and that's really going to make your life a lot easier. So keyframes, they're basically just a point to represent a specific value, and you can use these to create animation. So thank you for watching this video. I really do appreciate your support. And if you're not already, then please do consider pressing that subscribe button.